Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Wigan Fan TV. Semi-final week this week. I'm joined by Gareth Davis on the far left of your screen, I think. David Bailey in the middle, and I'm missing my glasses this week. Otherwise, we could have been the three amigos in the glasses. Gareth, you've not spoken for a few weeks. Are you well?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, very well. Just coming out of our busy season down here in Cornwall. Some developments in my journalism down here as well. I can't say too much at the moment. I'll be able to say a bit more in a month or so's time. But yeah, that's going well too. Yeah, all good, mate. To be honest, all good.
And David, we've managed to find you. I've got your pint here that I bought you on Friday night. It's got a bit warm. What happened on Friday night?
Oh, worst day ever, mate. It was filming a wedding. Started at lunchtime.
You were invited to film the wedding, weren't you? Let's just
I wasn't doing a Matt McCauley and just taking my camera and everywhere. And it was due to finish sort of speeches due about 5 o'clock, and I'd have been heading back, but it just ran, and literally I left the wedding. I think it was about 20 minutes before half time, so it was just a write-off, and it was a bit of a trek away as well. So yeah, I'm alive.
Perfect. Well, just thought we'd mention that because I was going to ask you what your thoughts on the whole game were, but obviously that was a trick question that was ready for you. Corinda is watching. I'm glad Roosters won the rugby. Yeah, NRL Grand Final. Sydney Roosters. Either of you Roosters fans? Who do you follow in the NRL, if anyone, Gareth?
No one really. I don't. I used to follow it quite closely actually. But then when it went off Sky and it was on like Premier Sports, I didn't follow it that closely, to be honest.
I mean, the incredible story from Sunday, David, was Cooper Cronk playing with a broken shoulder blade, which is incredible. The fact that he even started the game, he was an on-field coach, wasn't he? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was a fantastic effort from him to be able to play. I don't think he did very much. I think the team carried him around, but like you said, he was an on-field.
I think he didn't make a single tackle, did he, in the first half?
No, I don't think so. Much control, but to play was just an effort in itself.
I mean, considering he was obviously going to be targeted, in defence, and the fact that he managed to get away without making a single tackle in that first half is an incredible game plan. And I still not too sure how they did it. That is a banned subject tonight, George Briscoe. We're not going to give Zach Hardacre the time of day this evening. We're going to focus very much on success. And one thing that I want to start the show on, really, I'm sure David certainly has, and I think, Gareth, you've probably seen this, is the incredible gesture from Talima Tautai, who's donated his 2016 Super League Grand Final winners' ring to the SANS charity for stillbirth, Footprints for SANS. If you have a look at that on Facebook and Twitter, the interest in it has got so ridiculously high that they've now set up a separate auction for it. People were just bidding for it in the comments on Facebook. But if you search Footprints for SANS on Facebook, you'll find that. Fantastic work that Talima Tautai does, and his wife, Ange Tautai, I know, does a lot of work in the community, and you've probably seen that on the Wigan website. But just wanted to make sure that we mentioned that tonight, and well done, Talima, and hopefully you'll get another ring for 2018 to join that. Let's talk about. Let's go on to the men's semi-final. We'll go on to the women's, then back onto the men's. Gareth, tough selection choices for Shaun Wane this week. Talima Tautai, we've just mentioned, hasn't been banned. There was a feeling that he went in with his knees, but he doesn't have a ban for this week. You've got Sean O'Loughlin to potentially come back in. You've got Ben Flower. Liam Farrell came back in off the bench. Who do you drop?
Oh, that's a $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, I think Lockers will start. It has to start. Big game calls for a big player. I mean, there's a bit of a hullabaloo this week about him only playing 17 games and getting in the dream team. But that tells you something about him.
It does, doesn't it?
For Wigan, I mean, I think I said on this show before that if he'd have played in the World Cup last year, England would have won the World Cup. He's that vital for us. I think he'll start. Absolutely, he'll start. Liam Farrell, I like Farrell again. Farrell's a big game player for me. And yeah, it's just difficult. You wouldn't want to be in Wayne's shoes at the moment, Roger. He's got some really, really tough choices to make. Which I suppose shows just how good we've been at the back end of the season compared to 12 months ago, where it all sort of fell apart after we lost the Challenge Cup final. This year, it's been it's almost been the total opposite. When we got knocked out of the Challenge Cup against Warrington, and Wayne announced he was leaving, Adrian Lamb, Sean Edwards, all that stuff we've been over, we've been brilliant. I mean, I think, was it the only team to ever go through the Super 8s, whatever they call it, without losing a game? You know, this is the time of year to be in form and to have a more or less fit squad, more or less squad with players. Yeah, that comment that's just gone up on the screen.
So Stuart Prescott says form players need to keep their place.
Well, I wouldn't say need to keep their place because, like I say, I just think Sean O'Loughlin is so pivotal to any team he plays in doing well that I just think he's an absolute shoo-in to start. However, it just makes Wayne's life very difficult as to who he drops, really.
So, David, on Friday, not that you know because you weren't at the game, even though you were supposed to be, and you left us all standing at the bar waiting for you, and we missed the start of the second half because we were all waiting for you. But not to dwell on that. Liam Farrell came off the bench for got a few minutes under his belt. So I guess the biggest problem is you've got Ben Flower, Tony Clubb, Ryan Sutton, Talima Tautai, Sean O'Loughlin, Liam Farrell, Joe Greenwood, who's just been announced in the England squad today, ahead of Liam Farrell, who's not been in the squad. John Bateman, Man of Steel contender. So that's 8 people for 6 spots, and that's discounting Ollie Partington, who's done a pretty decent job as well, hasn't he? When he's been asked to come in. Stuart's comment on that: form players need to keep the place. Is there a risk that changing the team too much to get Liam Farrell back in the side could disrupt the flow of the form that we've seen recently?
Yeah, of course there is, and not just disrupt the flow as well. You talk about bringing players back that have been absent. Sean.
I missed Hamlin off that list as well. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly, and there's injuries as well. Sean O'Loughlin came out this week and said that he's fit now. He's maybe been rushed back a little bit earlier on in the season than he should have been. I don't really buy that. Lockers has been like this for the last few seasons, so we should know how to manage him. So I'm not convinced that's the case. But if you throw in Farrell and O'Loughlin and one of them breaks down in the game, you're risking a hell of a lot there. And as Stuart said, there's players in form there. Greenwood's playing well, Bateman's playing well. You've got Farrell, so you've got 3 international class back rows there fighting for 2 spots. So for me, O'Loughlin is vital, but I'd be tempted to have him on the bench and not upset the flow of the form players and have him there to come on because we're a different team when he's on the pitch as well. So if we can start off on the front foot against Castleford and then bring him on, it could guarantee us a place at Old Trafford.
There's that, I guess, option as well. I think he started the game against Catalans as a prop, and he did a couple of seasons ago. He finished off as a standoff, so there's always, prop and, it's a middle, isn't it? These positions perhaps are very, very loose nowadays in terms of that. Apparently you've got history, David, of making people wait for things. Hannah says that she's still waiting for a pie from you. So apparently we should have just expected this from you. Appalling behaviour. I want to touch on the women's semi-final. Firstly, Gareth, we've spoken about the women's team on and off, probably a lot less than what we actually would have liked to this season for one reason or another. The fact that Wigan finished second in the table in the first ever season, and along with St Helens as well, they finished third in the table. They both play each other this weekend in the semi-final. Without the specifics on the game, because I know between the 3 of us, we sort of all confess that we've not watched too much of the game, so we're not sort of confessing to be experts here. But Gareth, your thoughts on that as an achievement in your first year of playing rugby league as Wigan, and they're in the semi-finals, 80 minutes away from the grand final?
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant achievement, and everyone involved with the ladies' team should have a big pat on the back for that because there was always the risk that with the new team going in it that they may have been a little bit non-competitive, but they were competitive right from the word go. And what's been great is the club have really got behind the ladies' team as well. Yeah. Like they've streamed the games live and stuff like that, and they've given the ladies as much airtime as the men, like the sing song if they win after the game. So I think it's really, really good and just helps promote our game, doesn't it, really? Not just Wigan as a club, but, it's opening up our game to... Women have always played our game, but it hasn't really been played at a competitive level by the top men's clubs before. So for that to happen now, and to have clubs like Wigan, and St Helens, the big clubs, contesting semi-finals and grand finals, I think going good for the women's game. I really do.
And the big thing about Wigan as well is that they've got an under-19s development going now. So they've got a youth system, just like the men's team, to bring women through who are going to be playing in that first team. David, there's a question on here, which I think the answer is probably, we don't know the answer, but I think this perhaps shows the interest in the women's game now. Is, do we have any plans to have a double header with the women's at the DW? It would be good to see. It would be fantastic to see. Like the under-19s grand final, which you missed at the weekend, David, as well, when you missed and stood everybody up. But the plans for the Robin Park development were in the Wigan paper this week as well. That's been given the green light. So I don't think we will see that happen too much, George, if I'm being honest, because of the ownership of the DW. But Wigan are moving across to Robin Park. That is going to be their training facility, hopefully from next season, and it's going to be open to the public as well as being basically the Wigan club training there and playing there, and basically Orrell moves over to Robin Park. So I think we'll start seeing perhaps games before the main game, but not on the main pitch, if that makes sense. David, one of the things, and I'm not trying to trip you up here with sort of telling me who's your favourite player in the women's team or anything like that, but I think one of the things that I've noticed from watching from watching various games, is the development from the women that have come from outside of the sport. So at the Riversiders Awards on Saturday night, Michelle Davis won Women's Player of the Year. This was her first year of playing rugby league. She's come from rugby union. She's a solicitor, and she's won Player of the Year, and I think she represented Lancashire early in the year. So there's lots of stories like that, as well as Gemma Walsh, who I think I said earlier on in the year is one of the best rugby players, women and men, in terms of controlling a game that I've actually seen, the way that she was controlling. But your thoughts, David, on Wigan's season and the fact that we could, touch wood, we could have two grand finals, both in Manchester, and Wigan playing both of them on the same day in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, the women have done a fantastic job this season. I think they finished 1 point behind Leeds in terms of the league table. It's a big raps to them. I think the crucial thing, you mentioned Gemma Walsh there, but also if you look around at, Amanda Wilkinson, who coaches the team. I think she was one of the first female qualified coaches at the top level of the sport. Anyway, so they've got the structure right. They've got Amanda in charge there, who knows the stuff and has been around the youth teams and the structure of Wigan for a while. Gemma there is brilliant leadership quality. So I think they're doing it right. And with the youth team as well, the reserves, it's kind of they don't do anything half-hearted at Wigan, which is something we should be proud of. The reserves and the academy, they've got a really, really good off-the-field structure, and that bodes well. And you can see that with the development of the players, not just that come through at Wigan, but the players that get farmed out to the championship clubs. There's very few players that leave Wigan and don't make a mark in the game elsewhere at whatever level it is.
Absolutely, you're spot on there. I mean, we're going to come back onto the Castleford game, but for anybody that isn't aware, we're going to play in this weekend against St Helens. It'll be live on Wigan TV. They're playing at Robin Park, so if you are available to go down and support the ladies, please do so. The grand final will be a week on Saturday at the Etihad campus, the little stadium next to the main Man City stadium, and the tram goes straight from Manchester City Centre out there. So if two Wigan teams are in that grand final, it would be absolutely fantastic to get there. We're going to quickly talk about the little awards that we're doing. I want to get your opinions on who you would be voting for, who you will be voting for. The voting's going to close tomorrow. One player who we put in the overseas category is one player that we haven't mentioned, and my dad's actually put on here. Navarrete deserves a player, so we've not even mentioned Navarrete as part of that pack, and I feel awful for saying that, because he is perhaps the form player, isn't he? He was man of the match on Friday in that game against Hull. But let's go through this. So this is Wigan Fan TV Awards. Again, obviously living far away, Gareth, I'm not sure whether you've seen any under-19s games on Wigan TV, but anybody out of there that strikes out under-19s player of the year? Morgan Smithies, Liam Byrne, Joe Brown, or Harry Smith?
I'm going to confess to say that I can't remember who I voted for in that, to be honest. But we'll just for me, I would say because I live so far away, I don't keep tabs on like you do with that. And again, no disrespect to the women. You go on to, I think you had a young player of the year one for the. Did you have a young?
Yeah, we've got a development one. So I mean, yeah. So give you, I mean, under 19s player of the year. Liam Byrne won the Riversiders version of that. Morgan Smithies was named man of the match in the under-19s grand final, so I would expect it to be between them. Harry Smith was the under-19s captain in the grand final. Women's player of the year, Gemma Walsh, who's obviously the standout player in that team. Rebecca Greenfield, who's been playing fullback. Rachel Thompson, who's been playing really well. And Michelle Davis, who I mentioned before, who's been playing on the wing. So this one then for you, Gareth. Breakthrough player of the year, Paisley, Partington, Kabula, Mullen or Woods?
Partington, I think, on that one.
Partington for that one. Overseas player, Gareth? Luluai, Tautai, Hamlin, Isa, Escray or Navarrete?
I'm going to go Tautai for that, I think consistently he's been really decent this year. Sorry, Matt, to upset you. I mean, there could be you could have had Navarrete in the breakthrough one because this has sort of been his breakthrough season, hasn't it? He was,
absolutely.
He was on the fringes. He was on the fringes last year, but I think he's really announced himself as a key member of the squad, hasn't he? Really.
Player of the year, last year's winner, Sean O'Loughlin. Player of the year, Bateman, Tompkins, Tony Clubb or Ben Flower? I
think Bateman will win that by a country mile.
I think so.
To go alongside his man. Will he win Man of Steel? I don't know if he'll win Man of Steel.
Yeah, of course he will. Of course he will. David, your thoughts on this? Let's go back up. Under-19s player of the year.
Yeah, I voted Harry Smith on the under-19s. I just think he's, like I said, he's led the team around and in a position that's crucial to the side as well. So he got my vote for that. I think he's at the games that I have seen, he's always stood out for me.
Interesting as well. Like last year's winner, Ollie Partington. So obviously he's gone on to play quite a few games in the first team. So it'll be interesting to see who wins and whether they're going to play first team rugby next year. Women's player of the year, David.
Yeah, Gemma Walsh all day long.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Breakthrough player of the year. So last year's winner, Tom Davis, Paisley, Partington, Kabula, Mullen or Woods.
Do you know what? I agree with Gareth on that one. You've got to go with Partington. I think that there's merely because of what he's done in the first team when he's come in, he's stood out in the first team. So I think just his contribution is not looked out of place in a position where we're flush with talent as well in the second row. He's made an impact and managed to keep his place quite well.
I mean, that's a big thing, isn't it? I think defensively he's been so aggressive when he's come into this team. I mean, I think the votes will be very much split between Ollie Partington and Josh Woods. Josh Woods has done a really good job at Swinton this year as well as Wigan. And obviously I think this season's highlight for him will very much be that drop goal against Warrington. So that'll be an interesting vote, I think. Overseas player of the year for you, David?
Yeah, just going back to Josh Woods as well. I think he was the other one that I was considering voting for, and I just think he's had less of a chance to make an impact than Ollie Partington has. So that's the only reason I voted Partington ahead of him. Overseas, Escray, I just think he's for the time that he's been given, he's come in and delivered and made a difference in the games. I still think he deserves more game time, but I think he's shoehorned himself into being an impact sub because of how well he's done at that role. So. A utility player with no real nailed-down position, but I think he's made a massive difference in the games, particularly in the Super 8s.
I mean, I think this is a really tough category because you've got Willie Ice, who's arguably had his best season at Wigan, Gabe Hamlin, who's come in and done a fantastic job. And then Player of the Year, finally, I guess this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't really look any further. I mean, he's in the Dream Team. He's been nominated for Man of Steel. It's a hard one because we're going to miss him so much, but I just don't think we could have done anything more to keep him either. But I'm not sure that it's going to be that big of a loss if we look at sort of Joe Greenwood and Farrell. We're going to have to play to those strengths, aren't we? We're going to have to play to Joe Greenwood's strengths because he's come on in leaps and bounds, and once he's got his fitness back and match fitness as well.
they're the awards. They'll be open until some point tomorrow, and then we'll do sort of a little bit of a show and announce the winners. We are doing a very special award, which is Player of the Year whose first name begins with an R, surname begins with an N, and his surname ends with an E. Just so whoever that fits into the category can win an award. Matt might actually randomly pop up and join us at some point tonight. I mean, he hasn't in the first 20 minutes, but he is genuinely doing a stand-up comedy gig at Bath Spa Student Union. And he said he was going to nip off to the toilets and join us. And I'm quite pleased that he hasn't joined us, to be honest with you, so far. Right, let's get back on to the main event. Friday night, 80 minutes away from the grand final. David, I'm going to start with you before coming to Gareth. Where is this game won and lost? And does the St Helens victory over Castleford last week, in which they won, what was it, 26-0? Castleford didn't even get on the score. Does that give us hope, or does it give us false hope?
I think it's false hope. I think it's a totally different game. Castleford traditionally don't do well against St Helens either, whereas they tend to want to come and upset our party. There's a lot of ill feeling between the two. So there's a lot on the line. Sean Wayne's last game at the DW, as well as Tompkins, Bateman and Sutton. Despite the pleas to the contrary, we all know there's a bit of needle between Darryl Powell and Sean Wayne, whatever that might be. So we'd love nothing more than to come to Wigan and upset the party. So, I don't think you can read much into last week's game at all. It's a tough one because everything's sort of pointing to, we're on form. We've already beaten them in the Super 8s. We've not lost in the Super 8s. We're getting players back from injury and we've played some really good rugby since Powell and Luluai switched. So everything kind of is stacking into place. And usually when that's the case, that's when you get tripped up and it doesn't go to plan. So I think the crucial thing for me is the pack, and if we've got the players back, like O'Loughlin, like Farrell, like Bateman on form and fully fit, I just don't think Cass have got enough to handle us. And I believe Truman as well was in a bit of a cast last week, late tail end of last week. So that's a bit of a worry for them. That's come from one of my cast supporting friends over in Yorkshire. So he was in a bit of a cast earlier on this week.
I've just put Peter Meadows' comment on there. I think this could very well happen. 4 forwards on the bench. I think Cass apparently struggled to deal with the forwards against St Helens, but to drop Escaré in such a big game would be. I don't think you're going to get his confidence back if he wanted to play him in the final. Should we get there?
Yeah, it's a bit of a. I wouldn't. He's right in terms of that's a typical way move in that respect, but. Moving Bateman into the centres and dropping Escaré and just trying to show all the forwards in might come unstuck with that one. I could see it happening though. He's exactly right, but I personally wouldn't like to see that.
Gareth, in terms of the emotion on Friday night, Sean Wayne at the Riverside Awards on Saturday went on stage, accepted an award, a thank you award from the Riversiders. Got very emotional. Couldn't finish his speech on the stage, and that was a week before the game. I mean, the emotion in that changing room, the emotion leading up to this game is going to be intense. Could that be Wigan's downfall? Could they get too psyched up for it, do you think, or do you think it'll go in Wigan's favour?
No, I think that will be the total opposite. I think these you've got Wayne and the boys that are leaving as well. They'll be doubly determined to win. If we hadn't, there wasn't. I mean, it's a grand final at stake, so there's enough incentive to win. But the players that are going, they're not only they're going to want to do it for their coach. They're going to want to do it for themselves. I just think we just got a bit too much for Cass, to be honest. Cass's strengths is in the backs. It's never been in the forwards, I don't think. I was looking at their who was going to play for them today, and they've got some real pace in the back. They've got some real pace in the backs.
Yeah,
Luke Gale is So
that's the team that lined up against St Helens on the screen there. So
yeah, but I mean, Luke Gale, Gale hasn't played much this year, has he? Because he's been injured. Gale's key for them because, whereas I think at times Luluai was always a half back. When he was at Wigan the first time, he's always been a half back. But this business of him and Powell swapping around, and it's perhaps because we don't have a designated number 7 and haven't had whereas they do. And I always think number 7, He's like your general who marshals your team around the pitch. So he'll be key for them if we can keep him quiet. But I just think we've got too much in the forwards, really. I just think we've got far too much power in the forwards, really. Although they are, they're a dangerous side. I've always liked the lad McShane at hooker. I think he's a really, really good, underrated player that's always done a decent job for them. The boy McGee, Minute. How do you say it? The guy they signed from London Broncos who plays in the back row. Is it
McMeekin?
McMeekin.
How do you pronounce that? Anyway, he's a really decent player. So that. But I just think that out of the 4 teams have got to the semi-finals, I think you could sort of like throw a blanket over us, Saints, Warrington. There's not a lot to choose between the two sides. Whereas I think I just think they look considerably weaker than the other 3. So I think the fact we're at home, I think it's a great draw for us, to be honest. I think if we just play like we have been the last 2 months, I think we'll get through with, say, comfortably, but because it will be tense. But I just think
I'd love us to get through comfortably. It would be nothing better than just a sort of 30-point victory, but it's just not going to happen, is it, in a semi-final? No matter who's playing, really.
No, and you just need that bad bit of luck, don't you? I mean, you just don't want one of your key players to get injured or
sent off.
Yeah, sent off. Yeah, I mean, come on, Ben Flower, don't do something silly like you did. You know what I mean? Something like that can put you on the back foot straight away. But yeah, I think we'll win. I think we'll win quite comfortably. I think it'll be a perfect way for Sean Wayne, who's done so much for our club as a player, as a developing. I mean, we've talked about it on this show before. Developing the youngsters, and then as a coach, to go out by taking your team to a grand final and then hopefully winning it, along with the other boys that are going. Like Sam Tompkins and Bateman, quality players that have given so much for the club over the years.
David, I'm going to ask you about home advantage in a second, as Phil puts on here. But just to answer Martin's point, Sam Powell fit to play. I thought I heard Joe Mills say he went off injured. I think it was a conscious decision that Sam Powell was going to play X amount of minutes and then they were going to take him off. I think, David, we've spoke about Josh Ganson's future. Basically, Sean Wayne said that he wanted to play a hooker off the bench. There wasn't a hooker that he wanted to play, despite Josh Ganson being fit, which spells question marks if Sean Wayne was to remain at the club next year for Josh Ganson's future. But I think, Martin, I may be wrong on that, but I think that was a tactical decision to rest Sam Powell, who's very much been at times over the past few weeks an 80-minute hooker and been putting his body on the line with the tackling. Craig Mullen came on and did a pretty decent job, to be fair, at dummy half, just running at people and sort of frightening the whole defender at times. Phil says home advantage with Wayne's last game should win it. Now, David, I completely agree with that, but we've got 2 problems that come in here. One is, do we have home advantage? Because I think Castleford at this moment in time outnumber us in terms of tickets sold, which is embarrassing. Yeah. But I can't speak because I won't be going to the game. I won't be travelling down from Durham. But they've sold about 5,000 tickets. I think Wigan put out today that 10,000 tickets have been sold in total, which, I'm sure we'll have a large walk-up thing. But I know the answer to this is, would you rather be playing the game at the DW or Weldon Road? That's a simple answer. But how big do we need to make this home advantage on Friday? How much do we need to make it count? Sorry.
I think you've nailed it in terms of it's not really a home advantage. I think the big advantage is that you're not playing at Cats. I don't think any of the sides would have liked to go there. Warrington or Wigan. That was the one that we didn't want to get. So it's more critical that Cats are away than it is that Wigan are at home, I think. In terms of the numbers, I mean, you look at the social media activity today and you look at the videos coming out from Sean O'Loughlin, Sam Powell drumming up support, saying that you need them there. So that does indicate that the sales aren't as high as they would expect. But it's a semi-final, it's a turn up on the day job. There'll be a raft of people. I know a load of people that haven't got their tickets yet, and they'll be getting them in the next 2 or 3 days. So, I'd be disappointed if Cats are bringing 4,000. I'd be surprised if there's anything less than 15,000 on, really. But yeah, it is. It's more Cats Arnterdome than it is Wigan Arrowdome that's the advantage there. The atmosphere at the DW probably will be better than it has been in the Super 8s because there's something to play for, and that's the only problem with the DW when it's half full or a third full. The the atmosphere is just so flat. It's just ridiculous.
It doesn't exist, does it really? In terms of thoughts, how this game's going to go, I think all three of us are in agreement as Wigan fans. I'm missing my cherry and white tinted glasses, obviously, but you two have got them on. We all think that we're going to go through to the grand final at Old Trafford. Gareth, give me a score prediction for the Wigan game. How do you think that's going to finish?
Oh, I think we win easily by 20 points. 30-10. There you go, 30-10.
It's going to come back and haunt us. 30 points to 10.
That's it, yeah.
David?
Yeah, a little bit closer than that. So I think there's only going to be 8 points in it. I think, if we get any penalties, I think we'll be going for two quite a lot. I'll say 22-14. I think there's only going to be, like I said, the 8-point gap.
We've got a good record in semi-finals in the Super League. The last time we lost, I think, was the 2012 semi-final, which was the game that we should never have lost at home to Leeds. And the pivotal thing in that game was what you just touched on, David, taking the two. Obviously, Leeds with Kevin Sinfield were standing at doing that. Sam Tonkins got injured in the lead up to that game, so we threw Jack Murphy in, and the rest is history. And then I think the one before that was 2011 when we lost to Saints at Widnes, I think. So we're unbeaten in semi-finals in the Super League at home anytime since 2012. So the omens are good in regards to that. Stuart says low scoring first half, Wigan to win on the last 15 by 8 to 10 points. Yeah, I completely agree with Stuart. I think it's going to be a tense affair. I think Wigan will have just perhaps too much for them later on in the game when Castleford have perhaps got to try and push it a little bit. But every opportunity you get of taking the 2 points, you've just got to take it, or taking the 1 point. Phil says still think there's 12 points in it. Last gasp sealing it. Only 2 games this weekend. Obviously, the other semi-final on Thursday being St Helens against Warrington. Gareth, we don't normally talk about the unspeakable on the show, but out of Saints and Warrington, do you see a comfortable Saints victory?
I don't care, to be honest. I don't care. I don't want to see them get to the final, and it's always Warrington's year, but it's not. So I think we get I don't think it matters, does it really? We need to just worry about us and us get through, and whoever we play in the final is whoever we play. I mean, like I said earlier, I don't think there's much to choose between us, Warrington and St Helens. So whoever we get, it's going to be tough. Yeah, I think if I had to say who I'd rather play in the final, I'd rather play Warrington. I think because I just got this sneaky feeling that Barber's got one good game left in him before he goes back to the NRL, and it would just be sort of against us in the final, wouldn't it? So,
David, your thoughts on Saints Warrington? Bearing in mind you're very close to Warrington at this moment in time, if in fact in Warrington.
I think Saints will have too much for them. With home advantage, I think that's going to be critical in that game. Got a bit more experience, kind of getting a bit of form back, and Barber seems to have now his future settled and it's all out in the open. He's probably can focus on his rugby instead of worrying about where he's going to be next season. So I think Saints have too much. I think the trouble with Saints is it's always the best feeling in the world to beat them in a final, but to lose them in a final is the worst feeling in the world. So it's that double-edged sword. It's like, love it if we could guarantee we're going to beat them, but I would hate it if they beat us. But yeah, I think it's a Wigan Saints final. I think on balance, it's probably a fair point. In terms of the season, I think Saints had the first half of the season and Wigan have dominated. Like I've said, since the Challenge Cup defeat to Warrington, the sort of couple of blips after that, I think we've gone on a really good run since then. So I think it's final most neutrals I'd want to see, if I'm honest.
Phil says he wants to see Saints and Wire go down to a drop goal and we smash them. Even extra time would be fantastic, particularly if we get to the final. I'd love to see a Wigan St Helens final, but I'm with you, David. I mean, I'm having sleepless nights about the semi-final. Never mind the final. If we get there and play St Helens, it will be a week of insomnia. leading up to that final. But it is the best feeling in the world to beat St Helens in the final. But I'm telling you now, 2 weeks out, that Wigan will beat St Helens in the grand final, and Ben Flower will be the Harry Sunderland Trophy winner. And I said that walking away from Old Trafford after he got sent off. And I said, one day he will come back here, he will play St Helens, and he will get the Harry Sunderland Trophy. And there you go, 2 weeks ahead of schedule. Get your bets in. Or maybe only put 50p on or something, just in case. But thank you so much for joining us. No Macaulay's moments. Maybe he's locked in a cubicle in Bath Spa Student Union, but that's not a bad thing, to be honest with you. He met his hero, Romain Navarrete, on Friday night as well, which was a very interesting meeting between the two of them. So, Gareth, thank you so much for taking the time. And I hope we're previewing another game this season. I hope this isn't the last preview that we do this season. And David, thank you so much for turning up. It's much appreciated. And I want to just finish with what we started with, really, is just a big shout out to Lima Tautai. Check out Footprints for Sands on Facebook and have a look at the incredible auction that he's doing of his 2016 winners ring. So thanks a lot, everybody, for watching. Cheers.